In this lesson, we look at the top-level application function, app_main. Normally, main itself would be the top-level application function, but the main function is generated code, and I like to minimize the amount of changes I make to generated code. So in the generated main function, I just put in a call to app_main. Now the app_main function invokes the core APIs for the various modules in 3 sections. It's pretty simple. First, it invokes the Init Api for all modules that use this API. Sometimes it gets the default configuration first. Then it invokes the Start API for all modules that use this API. And finally, it enters the super loop to continuously invoke the Run API for all modules that use that API. Note there are a few console commands, and I use main as the module name in these commands. We'll look at these in a minute. Here we are in the implementation. So let's go through it. You'll notice there are some performance measurements defined, and these performance measurements are just counts of errors that occurred during the different stages of initialization. Then there is the data that is provided to the command module about console commands and those performance measurements. Then we have some configuration for the DIO module. Here are the inputs and the outputs, and these are provided to the DIO module during the init step. So now we're actually in the app main function, and now we're in those going to go through those 3 main sections. Here it's going to invoke the Init API on the modules that use that API. And so it's a lot of the same code repeated again and again. And in general, when it invokes these APIs, if the result indicates a failure, it logs it and to the console, and it also increments one of the performance counters. And those performance counters gives us a record. So after initialization has completed, we can check if there were any errors. So we've done all the init calls. Now we do the start calls. Again, lots of the same code repeated again and again. So we're done with the start calls, so it's time to enter the super loop. And there it is. There are just 3 modules that require have a run function to be called in the super loop. We'll look at this, or at the data this provides. This is a statistic where we're collecting statistics on how long it takes us to run through the super loop, and we'll look at that in a minute. Following this is just the command handler for the console command. So here we are in the console. So the first thing I'm going to do is see what kind of commands we have, and we have a status command. And all that's in the status command is information from that statistic that we are performing in the super loop. And what we're doing in there is keeping track of the minimum time, the maximum time, super loop time, the maximum super loop time, and then the average time. So what this is telling us is that well, the minimum, these measurements are in milliseconds, and it's not precise enough to make a lot of conclusions of this. All we can say is that on average we're running very fast, 5 microseconds on average to go through the super loop. But there has been at least once where it took 2 milliseconds. And because of the granularity, this could actually be closer to 1 millisecond. We don't really know. So the other thing I wanted to show is the PMs, performance measurements. And this is what we'd expect. The performance measurements are just the number of errors during the init phase, the start phase, and then in the super loop. And it is 0. So there's not a lot of information here, but it is good to get a little bit of an idea of the health, particularly how fast is this super loop running. So that's it for this app underscore main function, and thanks again for watching.